So you're crashing out. It's okay, we all do. What's the biggest thing you have learned from crashing out? Don't fight me, y'all. But I honestly think that crashing out is absolutely necessary in some way or another to heal from emotional wounds and also to be able to see clearly what is the problem that needs to be solved. The biggest thing that I have learned is that when I feel myself crashing out, the first thing I've learned to do is say, okay, there's something to learn here. I need to learn something here. You know what I mean? And I've learned to never look at crash outs as something bad that happened to me or something that attacked me. Not necessarily the situation itself, but rather the reaction and experience of emotionally crashing out. I've learned to never look at that, try my best to look at it with grace and see it as something that helped me to learn instead of something that only made me suffer. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Goodnight, Girl, the podcast where we can just sit through this time in our world and just focus on the advice that we need in our day-to-day before bed. If you're listening to this before bed, maybe it's the morning for you, whatever it is, we're just here to figure out the problems that we are dealing with day to day. I'll give you advice, mental health advice, and ways that you can cope and make your life better able to be healthy and be happier even through very real and valid challenges that we go through. Before we get started, we need to take a deep breath because it seems like the more months go on in this year, Can we press the reset button on this game? Because I need a deep breath. So lock in, breathe in, and out. We need to do it again one more time. Breathe in and out. Thank you very much for taking that deep breath with me. I didn't realize I needed that too. Girl, I just read the news today. And it was the worst thing. You know how you read the news in the morning? That's what I did this morning. Never read the news in the morning, y'all, because I didn't even realize I was holding that tension in. Anyways, I asked you guys to send me advice about crashing out. Now, if you don't know what the slang term crashing out is, it's essentially having a breakdown or just like, you know, those moments when you're overthinking so much, it actually causes you so much anxiety or anger that you can feel it physically. And you sometimes whenever you crash out or have this breakdown, you end up like doing crazy stuff that's like, and you're not in your right mind for whatever the situation is. Your emotions are so incredibly high that you are just reacting in a way that you usually would not. That's crashing out. So I asked you guys about advice because we've all been there before, whether it was when we were children or whether some of y'all need to do it now to release some anger or feelings or whatever. But that's another conversation that we're gonna have. And y'all, do you see? I have never, ever gotten that many questions from people. So thank you so much for sending in questions. How do I deal with stupidity? The root of all anger, at least for me personally. And I think the way I'm interpreting this question is, I believe that this person has a hard time handling other people's, in their words, stupidity, like on a day-to-day basis. Like I know it's the kind of thing where maybe like, if you're walking down the street in a city and the person in front of you is walking so incredibly slow or they keep on changing directions to where you can't get around them and you feel yourself like start getting so angry. I think that's the kind of feeling that they're talking about here. I don't know this person's situation. Maybe they work a job where like people are just like not listening to them or they're not like cooperating. Or maybe it's the kind of thing where somebody is just like genuinely not getting something, but they're having a hard time feeling anger from them not getting it. For me personally, I would say if you're dealing with somebody that is either not understanding the task at hand or they're intentionally doing something that you told them multiple times not to do it, but they're doing it anyway just because like, I don't know, maybe they're not seeing something and either of those situations is making you angry. I would have to say, is this situation big enough for me to lose my cool over? And if it isn't, then now it's up to you to go and do the tasks that you need to do to regulate your own emotions and calm down. Like if you're working with somebody on like a math project and they cannot get a question or something, and you're just really, really anxious to hurry up and finish the project, and you feel yourself getting angry over something that they're just not getting, then I'm sorry, but you don't have control over maybe a problem that somebody genuinely just takes a bit longer for them to get. It's not up to you to go say, I'm gonna step out of the room for a few minutes, or I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick, I'll be right back. And in that bathroom, do some breathing exercises and talk to yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, this is not big enough for me to lose my cool over. Level with the person. Even if you don't want to, be like, I remember whenever I was having a hard time figuring out this other problem I was dealing with, so I'm gonna have patience and I'm gonna have grace with them. Calm yourself down and then go back to the situation and figure out how you can solve it together. I think it's valid to have anger over somebody not necessarily doing things the way that you would want them to be done, but you have to understand that every single person on this earth thinks differently. They learn things differently. They also cope with different pressurized situations differently. So the best thing that you can do is have empathy and have patience. And that's incredibly hard. But if you're thinking it's incredibly hard to have patience and grace and empathy over other people, no matter how quote unquote stupid they are being, you have to ask yourself, why is it so hard to have empathy over them? Are you having the same amount of empathy over yourself when you're not getting something? Do you get just as angry whenever you don't get something, or you keep making mistakes over something? If you do, next time you make a mistake, or next time you're not perfect at something, or it's taking you a little bit longer to go through something, notice the words that you say in your head. Notice the thoughts that you're saying in your head. Are you saying things like, oh, I can't get this, like, hurry up, like, you have to get this right, you have to get this right? Are you putting a horrible environment for you to learn something new or figure out something that's going to be projected onto somebody else whenever they're not necessarily doing things the way that you would want them to be done? Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get what you want all the time in this world. You're not going to get somebody who is doing things exactly the way you want it in this world. But I also do get people being dumb. Now, actually, I want to talk a little bit more about this, because if it is a situation that you cannot control, like maybe you're looking at your government, or you're looking at your like school administration or something, or a higher power than you, and they're being stupid, then it is incredibly important for you to then look at that anger and realize, okay, I'm angry at this higher power doing something stupid. Why? Okay, there's a boundary being crossed here. Great. Now that you have learned to look at your anger objectively, you can see this is a boundary that's important to me. How can I speak up to protect this boundary? Or what can I do in my personal life and in my community to protect and fight for this boundary? And now that anger has somewhere to go. You know what I'm saying? Look at that anger objectively. There's a boundary that is being broken here. What can I do to protect it now? Instead of just reacting and just spewing out all of this like yelling, anger, frustration, where can that go? Where can that energy go? That energy is important, but it can go into somewhere that will protect where that anger came from in the first place. You get what I mean? Okay, next question. What things make you crash out? Oh, we getting personal. Okay. Well, for me, I have to be incredibly honest with you, and I have a feeling that there are going to be other questions about this. In the past, not much now, thank God. In the past, the thing that would make me crash out the most would be getting rejected in like romantic situations, and also just liking anybody at all would just make me crash out. For me, crashing out means just like having an anxiety attacks and panic attacks and just overthinking to the point where it's hard for me to relax. I'm gonna tell an embarrassing story just so y'all understand how much growth I've had in terms of dealing with really big emotions. I remember I had a crush on a person, and It was like the first time I'd had such like really, really big emotions in this way. And so I was in a hotel room and I did not know what to do with the thought of their rejection so much. I all of a sudden had this huge sadness, this huge anxiety, this huge overthinking amount of like, oh my gosh, if this happens, if this happens, I'm going to feel this, I'm going to feel that. I did not know what to do with how much emotion and energy I was feeling. I started hand washing my clothes in the tub. Now that sounds crazy, but I've talked about it before in a different episode, but a lot of the times the way that a lot of times the way I would handle coping with anxiety would be through cleaning. And I was on my hands and knees in a hotel bathroom tub, scrubbing my clothes, crying. That's crashing out to me. Now, I've grown a lot since then. That was years ago now. For me in the past, romantic situations would often cause me to do things that I wouldn't usually do, or I would look back on and be like, I wish I didn't do that, you know? Now, what makes me quote unquote crash out is most of the time watching my government do what it does. Most of the time it's that now. Or it's overthinking about like a family member's health or something, like something that is outside of my control in terms of like a family member's health. That would cause me to like crash out, you know. On like romance front, I had a really, really huge crash out that kind of changed everything for me and how I deal with these big emotions. But that's later. I really want to crash out, but I feel like I don't deserve to because others have it worse. Listen, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what problems you're dealing with, but it is self-love to validate your own feelings. Because yes, no matter what stage in life you're at, everyone's always going to have it worse. The person in the quote unquote worst situation is going to have somebody who has it worse. Always. Okay, I'm gonna throw some crazy examples out there. Maybe you're somebody who is in the Midwest. They're going to a private school. They have all their meals paid for. They wear like a nice uniform. But you're going through something where your friends are all leaving you for a rumor that has been circling around in the school. Would you say to that middle schooler, well, just feel better. Like, just feel better. Others have it worse than you. No. You're a growing human whose community is literally like betraying you. You need somebody or a time to express that emotion for no other reason than the fact that you are human and you need that. And that's it. If somebody's in a bad situation, like, I don't know, maybe they're living in poverty and their close ones have left them, they can always say, but I don't deserve to crash out because at least I'm not dead. Do you know what I'm saying? There will always be somebody who has it, quote unquote, worse than you. But the validation that you can have to express your feelings in a healthy way, which is not what crashing out sometimes is, but expressing your emotions and letting that frustration out is a part of what makes you a healthy human. You do not need requirements to express your emotions. Do you know what I mean? How do you keep from crashing out even when you feel it's needed to reset? Well, I would ask the question, why do you feel like you can't crash out? I feel like crash out, now that I'm midway through this episode, is being defined in so many different ways for people. I think in this specific question, this person is defining crashing out as maybe having a good cry that they need, or a good, like, just letting all of their emotions out. That is the definition I'm going off of for this specific question. I would ask, why do you feel like you cannot do it to where you have to keep yourself from doing it? It may be a situation where you need to get through specific tasks in a certain deadline, or maybe you're in an environment where you do not feel safe to do that. You have to find private moments. If there is any time in your schedule where you can block out an hour and say to the rest of the people around you, this is something that I cannot change. I cannot move this appointment. And you go into your room and close the door and let yourself cry or let yourself feel numb. Whatever emotion comes up for you, the act of letting yourself have that time is going to make a difference. Now, if you're in the moment and you feel yourself having maybe a panic attack or something, and you don't feel safe to let those emotions out, before that happens, before you're in that situation, maybe you have a lot of social anxiety. Before you're even in that situation, practice breathing techniques. Practice saying phrases and words to yourself that make yourself feel like you're there. I feel like a lot of times people give advice about handling anxiety and being like, well, just do breathing exercises. But you have to look at the intention. Why are you doing those breathing exercises? You can't just be about to have a panic attack and crash out thinking in your head, no, you have to count to 3 and breathe in, and then you have to count to 4 and breathe out. That's not the kind of breathing exercises I'm talking about. Whenever you're practicing those meditative grounding things outside of a situation in which you feel like you might crash out, you need to do them in terms of maybe while you're breathing in, tell yourself, hey, when we're in this situation, no matter what happens, I'm here for you. And then you breathe out and you think, no matter what happens, I'm going to be here for you. So when you're in that situation and you're doing those, whatever kind of grounding exercise that you practice to cope with your anxiety, panic attack, whatever, it's not in the sense of doing a task or fixing something. It's in the vein of reminding yourself, I'm here with you through this. I'm going to be here with you after this. Everything's going to be okay because I am here with you. And I found for me, it makes being in situations which I feel like I'm about to have a panic attack, it makes it so much better for me to focus completely on getting myself to a place where I feel safe to breathe. And sometimes that kind of practice outside of the situation, when I get into a chaotic situation, oftentimes it helps me to completely breathe the panic away. And I can continue going about my day, or like I've completely calmed myself down. So I hope that answers your question, I think. How do I stop negative self-talk that leads me to freaking out? I have this practice that I shared on a vlog that I still have on this channel, where I was in a time where I didn't know how to get out of a loop of calling myself a really bad friend and calling myself like a bad daughter and all of these different things. And it caused me a lot of anxiety. And I was trying to speak better and believe better about myself because I knew it was true. Like I knew those things, the negative things in my head. I knew that the negative things I was saying in my head weren't true logically, but there's something about insecurity that just makes you think it's absolutely true. So I would do this practice where I would take my name is Taylor. I would take my name, Taylor, on a piece of notebook paper, and I would split my name in half and go Tay on one side and Lore on the other side. And I would literally write down what I was thinking as if Tay and Lore were talking back and forth to each other, kind of like a script. And I would literally use Tay to say, what are you thinking about? And Lore would say, I'm thinking I'm a bad daughter and I've done all of these things and I'm a horrible person. Then Tay would say, well, why do you think that? What caused you to start thinking that? And Lore would say, I know I'm going back and forth, but I would reply, well, I didn't get a call back from my friends, so that must mean that they don't like me anymore. So I'm a horrible person. Tay would then say something like, well, did they tell you you were a bad friend? Weren't you just hanging out with them yesterday and they were laughing at your jokes and they hugged you? And Laura would be like, yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe I was assuming things, you know? And just that specific practice really helped me to be able to grab onto what was factual instead of what I was assuming about myself. It would help me to believe the affirmations that I would speak over myself. Now, if you want more about self-love, I have a video on self-love that you can go and look at on my channel. I can't get over the one situationship I had 6 months ago. I'm crashing out. Help. Ooh. You know that sound effect from Hannah Montana? Ooh. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened in that situationship. I don't know what kind of drama, what tea you got going on. I can only speak from my experience, so just take what you will. If that situationship has you in a state where you feel insecure, unstable, without closure, and feeling like you're owed something, then I must ask you the question, was that situationship fueling you to be a better person to begin with, or was it helping you to cope with an insecurity that was already there? And I ask you this because in my experience, many times I've had situationships or I've had crushes on people where I felt like they were going to bring a lot of joy and a lot of goodness to my life. But what they probably would have actually brought was validation that I couldn't bring myself to give to me. Or they would have been a crutch for me to cope with the things that I actually needed to deal with myself. So whenever I would find inconsistency with those people, or whenever I would assume things over them that I had no control over in the first place, I would crash out because I would take those things personally. So I would ask you to reevaluate what that situationship exactly was bringing to your life so much that you feel like it is the only thing that can bring that specific thing to your life. And then if you can actually write it down and have the bravery to write it down and go through the emotions that inevitably come up from that, then you will be able to find ways to bring healthier versions of that in your life that may not come from a relationship or may not come from a situationship. I'll tell you about the crash out. So I had a situationship where I had been involved with somebody and then they completely ghosted me. And it was to the point where we were pretty involved. And as soon as they got what they wanted, they completely ghosted me. I was so upset about it. I had the crash out of all crash outs, y'all. I even draft texted a text and sent it to my sister to be like, does this sound okay? And she even had to tell me, don't send that, girl. You sound crazy. And now looking back at that, I was like, oh my gosh, I sounded crazy. You know what I mean? I had so much pain and I was so angry and I took it so serious and it felt like I couldn't get this person off of my mind. And it wasn't until I sat down and realized that what they were bringing to me was a sense of validation that I couldn't give myself, that I was lovable or that I was attractive or that I was worthy of being loved. I realized I had rejected and abandoned myself so much that I believed I could only get those things through another person. And once I realized that, the crash out got worse. I'm not gonna lie. The crash out got worse because first you're crashing out about another person. But then when you realize the lack of love that you have, you crash out over the fact of how you've treated yourself for however many months or years. You know, it's two different kinds of grief, but you need to go through both of them in order to figure out the solution of how you can bring more love into your life. So I don't know what your tea is on this situation. Oh, look who texted me. Y'all, who texted me is the result of being healed from all of that. My bad. I don't know what your tea is in this situationship, but once again, find what they were bringing to you and ask yourself, why do I feel like I can only get that emotion or that sense of validation and safety from them? How can I give it to myself more? And I'm telling you, once you go through that and once you start practicing, actively practicing with bravery and with self-grace, because you're going to make mistakes and it's going to be hard and really, really uncomfortable at first. But once you start doing that consistently and seeing the results, I'm telling you, I am a testament to this. That person is going to fade. And even if they come back into your life, you're going to be able to look at them with such clear eyes. I'm telling you, because it's not about revenge. It's not about any of that. It's about healing, your healing and your better sense of life and love for yourself. All right, let's see. How do you get to the point that you don't? Honestly, I'm gonna do two ways. One way, I'm gonna take crashing out in the sense of anger and getting really angry over little things. And two, I'm taking the side of maybe anxiety-based crashing out and overthinking crashing out. The first thing, Start being patient and grace-filled toward yourself. You're going to feel really corny and you're going to feel really cliche. And I don't know what kind of like home environment you grew up in. You're going to feel weak and you're going to feel like you're not being powerful enough, or you're not exerting yourself over people enough, or you're letting people walk all over you. But what you're actually doing is letting people be human, just as you are human. And you're realizing what you have power over and what you don't. You're having humility and you're having such love over yourself that you don't let little things affect your peace. And, might I add, it is strong to do that, because even if somebody else says, well, you're letting people walk all over you because you didn't yell at this person for not going fast enough at like the cash register or something, you're going to look at them and be like, I hope you find more patience in your life. Because why are you being mad over somebody cutting you off in traffic when all you were doing was driving to the grocery store? You had to be at the grocery store in like 5 minutes or anything. Let them go. They want to drive crazy? Okay, go ahead. As long as I'm behind you and I'm not getting crashed. That's another thing. I think being grateful and finding things to be grateful about really does help with this, because when something happens to where maybe it tests your patience and it tests your ability to have grace and empathy over people. Let's say you're trying to check into a hotel and the hotel didn't clean your room before you arrived, and now you have to wait an hour to get your room. And it was like a complete mistake on the hotel's part. They apologized, they gave you perks and everything, but maybe you're still starting to like really crash out. You could say in that moment, dang, I have money to book this hotel. Dang, I got these perks, and they're really apologetic about it. Wow, it's not storming outside and I can wait inside where there's air conditioning while they clean our room. Man, I'm on vacation and I'm at this hotel. Oh man, I have the rest of this day to enjoy while they clean this room. I didn't have to be anywhere very urgently. That kind of gratitude over little things that do exist will help you to cope with the thing that you cannot control. Now, the other thing with anxiety and panic attacks and overthinking things and having mental breakdowns, if you define crashing out that way, I hope you never stop crashing out. That's a crazy thing to say, but I'll say it this way. There are certain types of mental breakdowns that you need to have to release emotion and figure out what your boundaries are and figure out the truth about things. Are they painful? Hell yeah. But would you rather go through the pain of dealing with cycles over and over again all throughout your life, or have the bravery to face fearful and even painful things to find out a solution? It's not about not crashing out anymore. It's about learning to go through those very human emotions with love. I also have a video about that on my YouTube channel that you can find in the Goodnight Girl playlist. How do you stay positive with everything going on? To be completely honest with you, listen, everything going on, we know everything that's been going on. Take your pick. Take your pick. I say this personally in my life. Listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. I'm very successful in a career that I have independently and a passion that I love very much. I'm extremely privileged, but we've seen that even the most privileged people can be extremely, extremely unhappy. For me, personally, I stay positive because I look at what my ancestors have already been through. I look at what people before me have already been through that have been in so much worse circumstances throughout this, and it does give me a sense of hope. Do I get scared? I get incredibly scared over the news that I see every single day. But I'm reminded that my ancestors, the same people who fought for me to know the feeling of not being scared, so I know the difference, also got through it, also had moments of joy that now have become tradition in Black culture for me. Do you know what I mean? In their joy through tough circumstances, tradition was born that now gives me joy. So now I know that when I have joy through all of these circumstances, that's resistance and creating tradition for the next generation. That's one reason. Another reason is I love myself. Yes, times are horrible. They're terrible. But I've also learned and am learning that the more space I give to feel the emotions that I feel, think of a solution that is in my control and let myself feel enough for doing what is humanly possible. Not inhumanly possible that society pushes on you, but what is in my control to do is enough. It gives me a sense of, okay, I'm not going to abandon myself even when I feel like things are out of my control. You know what I mean? Okay, I hope that helps. That was the last question I'm going to answer because a lot of them were like repeats and everything. But thank you so much for sending in so many questions. And also we hit 40K on YouTube. That's y'all. Hey, thank you. What else do I want to say? I hope that whatever you're going through, if you're going through a crash out, if you're working through how to handle those emotions better, you got this. You got it. You've got time. If you're alive, you've got time to figure it out. So have grace over yourself. Please love yourself. Pat yourself on the back whenever you did something different outside of your routine that was in a healthier way. And if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments or DM me on Instagram. And I really genuinely hope that you have a better day tomorrow, if you're watching this at night, than you had today. And with that being said, oh, wait, y'all, I gotta, please stay. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, y'all. Please pre-order my book. Black History is Your History. If you love hearing stories about my life on this podcast, you'll find 12 different stories about my life and how I got through challenges, along with the stories of Black history figures that I feel went through the same thing. So please pre-order. It was written for middle schoolers, but all ages can read it. It's funny. It is not a textbook. It's filled with, let me show you. It's filled with so many cute anecdotes. Here, hold on. Let me show y'all. Yeah, you see, it's a fun book. You can already tell, hey. So please order Black History is Your History on Barnes & Noble, Target, Amazon, wherever you get your books. You can find it. Link in my bio, link in the description, or just go on my social media. You'll find the link there. Yeah, thank you so much. Please, look at that beautiful cover. Look at me. Yeah, okay. And with that being said, good night, girl.